Socrates Unraveled. I know that I know nothing. Picture this. A man in ancient Athens walks around saying, I know that I know nothing. And it sparks a revolution in thought. That's Socrates, and welcome to episode 16 of our 100-part philosophy journey, where we dive into his provocative ideas. Can admitting ignorance actually make you wiser? Let's find out. Hey everyone, I'm your guide through this epic dive into ancient Greek philosophy. And today we're exploring Socrates, one of the most famous thinkers in history. He didn't write books, yet his ideas shaped Western thought, from ethics to democracy. Known for saying, I know that I know nothing, Socrates flipped the script on wisdom, teaching us that questioning everything is the key to a thoughtful life. So, grab a drink, get comfy, and let's unravel why Socrates' approach still shakes up the world today. Let's set the scene. It's Athens around 400 BCE, a bustling city-state full of thinkers, politicians, and markets. Socrates, a stonemason by trade with a sharp mind and sharper tongue, wanders the streets, chatting with anyone, rich, poor, young, old. He wasn't after fame or money. He wanted to uncover truth through questions. Unlike the philosophers we've covered, like Heraclitus or Parmenides, Socrates didn't focus on the cosmos. His big question was, how should we live? And his method? Asking relentless questions, until people realized they didn't know as much as they thought. Socrates' most famous idea is his paradox. I know that I know nothing. Sounds humble, right? But it's a game changer. In Athens, people like politicians and poets claim to have all the answers. Socrates challenged them by asking simple questions. What is justice? What is courage? And watching their confidence crumble. He believed that admitting ignorance is the first step to wisdom. Why? Because when you realize you don't know something, you start asking better questions, and that's where real learning begins. Let's try an example. Imagine you're debating with a friend about what's fair. You might say, fairness is treating everyone the same. Socrates would ask, but what if someone needs more help? Is it fair to give them the same as everyone else? You'd answer and he'd ask another question, then another, until you're questioning your whole idea of fairness. This is the Socratic method. Using questions to dig deeper, expose weak ideas, and get closer to truth. It's like mental cross-training, making your thinking sharper and more honest. Socrates didn't just annoy his friends with questions. He took on Athens' big shots. He'd hang out in the marketplace, chatting with politicians, craftsmen, anyone who claimed to know something. His goal wasn't to win arguments but to push people to think critically. For example, he'd ask a general, what is courage? The general might say, it's fighting bravely in battle. Socrates would reply, but what about standing up for what's right? Even if it's unpopular? Isn't that courage too? By the end, the general might admit he doesn't fully understand courage. And that's the point. Socrates showed that true wisdom starts with humility. Now this made Socrates both loved and hated. Young people flocked to him because he challenged authority and encouraged free thinking. But the powerful folks in Athens? Not so much. They saw him as a troublemaker, stirring up doubt and questioning tradition. Socrates didn't care. He believed philosophy wasn't just for fancy debates, it was about living a good life, what he called the examined life. He said, an unexamined life is not worth living. Heavy stuff, but it means you should question your beliefs, actions, and values to live authentically. Let's talk about the Socratic method in more detail. It's not just asking random questions. It's a disciplined way of probing ideas. Socrates would start with someone's claim, like, justice is following the law. Then he'd ask questions to test it. What if the law is unjust? Is it still justice to follow it? He'd keep going, exposing contradictions or gaps in logic. This method isn't about proving someone wrong. It's about finding clarity together. Today we see it in classrooms, courtrooms, even therapy sessions. Anywhere people dig for truth through dialogue. Socrates' life wasn't all talk though. His commitment to truth got him in big trouble. In 399 BCE, Athens put him on trial, accusing him of corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods. Picture this, Socrates, standing in court, defending himself not by begging for mercy, but by doubling down on his philosophy. He argued that questioning everything was his duty to Athens, making people think harder and live better. Spoiler: the jury didn't buy it. They sentenced him to death by drinking hemlock. But even facing death, Socrates stayed true to his principles, calmly accepting his fate. Let's zoom out. Why does Socrates matter today? His ideas are everywhere. The Socratic method shaped modern education, where teachers encourage students to question and debate. It's in science, where hypotheses are tested through rigorous questioning. It's even in democracy, where questioning authority keeps power in check. Ever challenged a bad rule at work or school? That's Socrates' spirit in you, pushing for truth over blind obedience. But Socrates' influence goes deeper. His focus on the examined life asks us to look inward. Why do you believe what you believe? Are your values truly yours, or just what society handed you? In a world of social media echo chambers and quick opinions, Socrates reminds us to slow down, question, and think for ourselves. He'd probably scroll through Twitter and ask, "Why do you retweet that? What's the evidence? What does it mean?" Annoying? Maybe. But it's how we grow. Let's get practical. Try the Socratic method in your life. Next time you're sure of something, like, "This politician is the best," ask yourself, "Why do I think that? What's the evidence? What if I'm wrong?" Keep asking until you hit a wall. It's tough, but it makes your beliefs stronger or shows you where they're shaky. Socrates would say that's the path to wisdom. Admitting you might not know as much as you think. Socrates didn't leave any writings, so how do we know about him? Mostly through his student, Plato, who wrote dialogues featuring Socrates as the main character. These dialogues, like the Apology or Euthyphro, show Socrates in action, questioning and debating. But here's a twist. Some scholars think Plato used Socrates as a mouthpiece for his own ideas. So we're never 100% sure which ideas are pure Socrates and which are Plato's spin. Either way, the Socrates we get is a larger-than-life figure who challenges us to think deeper. Let's talk about his trial again, because it's a big moment. At his trial, Socrates could have apologized or fled Athens, but he chose to stand his ground. He said he'd rather die than stop philosophizing, because questioning was his way of serving truth and humanity. Imagine that, choosing death over giving up your principles. It's a reminder that philosophy isn't just ideas, it's a way of life, sometimes with high stakes. Socrates also had a quirky side. He claimed to hear a daimonion, a kind of inner voice that warned him against bad choices. Not a god, but a gut instinct guiding him. It's like he had a built-in moral compass, which makes you wonder. Was Socrates just super intuitive, or was he tapping into something deeper? Either way, it added to his mystique. Now, Socrates wasn't perfect. Some criticized him for being too confrontational, almost like a philosophical bully. Others said his method could lead to doubt without answers, leaving people confused. And yeah, his constant questioning probably annoyed a lot of Athenians, enough to get him killed. But that's what makes him so compelling. He wasn't afraid to push boundaries, even if it meant making enemies. Let's wrap up with a takeaway. Socrates, I know that I know nothing, isn't about giving up, it's about staying curious. Next time you're in a debate or facing a tough choice, channel Socrates. Ask questions, dig deeper, and don't settle for easy answers. His philosophy teaches us that wisdom comes from humility and the courage to question everything. That's it for episode 16. We've explored Socrates, the philosopher who showed us that admitting ignorance is the start of wisdom. If you're loving this journey through ancient Greek philosophy, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Drop a comment. What's a belief you'd question with the Socratic method? Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in episode 17, where we'll dive into Plato, Socrates' star student.